Hello divas, dudes, and dolls, I'm Kira Couture, and welcome back to my naughty, nefarious, and nautical little review show, Very Slay. We go over each and every one of the runway looks on RuPaul's Drag Race UK vs. the World Series 2. And if you can't tell, I am having a very hard time coming up with alliterative adjectives for every single one of these. I'm gonna have to start consulting a thesaurus at this point. For anybody who is unfamiliar with the format of this show, if I think a look is just passable, it's just coasting along, riding the current, then we give it an okay. If I really love a look and it shivers my timbers, then we give it a slay. But if it's a look that I think should walk the plank, we give it a nay. That's all in efforts to find my weekly slay of the day, my favorite look of the episode, which will go into a post-crowning ranking video to determine the slay of the season, which will then get illustrated by me at some point sooner or later. This week was a nautical themed runway, so all of these looks dealt with maritime things, boats, naval equipment, the ocean, all of that. So a very fun runway theme. I was intrigued to see what everybody was going to do for it. I think it's time that we raise anchor and go check out all of these runways. Alrighty, first up this week we have Kada Minaj. I love the asymmetry in this. It's so clean, it's so precise, and there's so many really cool details in this. I love the element of androgyny that's in this. I really, really adore this captain's coat that is lined, the lining color of this. I love the corset, I love the golden leg, and I love the epaulette on the shoulder. It's really, really nice. And I also really appreciate this sort of modernized powdered wig, French curl little hairstyle. It's very cute, it's very fun, and I think it's very true to her aesthetic and true to her brand, giving this a slay. Up next, we have Theresa May. If there's one thing Theresa is always going to have, it is an absolutely painted mug. This makeup is gorgeous. I'm a really big fan of it. I actually really like the concept of this look, and I love all the tentacle elements of it. But the dress itself is a really basic silhouette, and I understand it's all latex. It's gonna be a little more simple because she can't really do a whole lot with it and still be able to breathe. I don't quite understand why she has 3 tits. I think that's a bit of an odd choice aesthetically, and I don't understand why some of the tentacles are coming out from where they're coming out of. I think this look is very illustrative. I think it is a really strong visual on stage. But I also, at the same time, have seen better from her, and we see significantly better on this runway. I'm giving this just an okay. Up next, we have La Grande Dame, who is literally wearing Jean-Paul Gaultier, like actual Gaultier on the runway, which is such a flex, and I love her for it. This is really cool. I really love the detailing and all of the individual like little micro ruffles in this skirt. It's really strong. Before I even knew it was actually Gaultier, I thought it looked like Gaultier, just aesthetically. She's kind of giving like the Wendy's girl, so I guess Wendy, but if she decided to like buy out Long John Silver's and become like a seafood chain restaurant. But this is really cute. I love the color palette. I love the little pops of red between the shoe, the hair, and the lip to all just tie that all in together. And it's a cool silhouette. I don't think I've ever really seen a skirt that's done quite like this. I'm gonna give this a slay. Up next, we have Scarlet Envy. Immediately when she rounded the corner, I caught this Kate Winslet moment. The hairstyle gave it away like from the jump to me. But this is one of my favorite looks I think I've ever seen from her across any of her seasons. The distressing on this gown is done in such a really interesting way. It's draped beautifully, it's detailed really well. I love the icicles hanging off of the shoulders and also on the skirt. Just the way it moves, the way it dances in the light. It's really subtle and it's really well done. It's really effective on the runway. My one problem with the makeup is that there's a couple times where the bottom part of her face, specifically the beard area, I don't know if it's because of her color corrector or what. There were a few different times where they would cut to her and it looked like the bottom of her face was more of a skin tone than the top, which was more the white base with the blue over it. So that kind of threw me off a bit. I really enjoy this. I think it's a really, really strong visual direction. I could see this walking in a Paris Fashion Week couture show. Really strong look, giving this a slay. Up next, we have Gothy Kendall. It's cute. It's very cute. I actually, again, like I said before, I really like her in these pastel tones. I think they really suit her. It's very light, it's very airy, and because she takes herself so seriously and so like rigid, I think these lighter colors allow her to play around with that a little bit more. I love the draped fabric pieces. It's really pretty visually on stage, and I think this is just a really gorgeous look. However, it's not particularly detailed all that well, if at all, and it's really simple. So when you put it next to all the other looks on the runway, because of how small scale it is, it really falls into the background. I think the color palette is lovely, I think the concept is lovely, but I think she could have taken it significantly further than what she did, especially given her background. So I'm only gonna give this an okay. Up next, we have Anaconda, and for the first time since her entrance look, I actually like what she's wearing on the runway a lot. This is really, really pretty, I think. It's definitely a bit of a clash in terms of eras in a lot of ways, and there's a lot going on in terms of fabric types. You've got the sheer elements, you've got the lace, you've got all the tulle. There's a lot of stuff to look at here, but I also don't think that it's really distracting from the look. It's very light, it's very elegant, I think, and I think her makeup looks so ridiculously gorgeous. I think she has one of the softest faces in terms of her makeup style in the franchise. It's just really, really gorgeous, really well done. I love how she does her eyes, and I think this is a really cute look. I think she could have done without the hat, but other than that, I'm a big fan of it. I'm gonna give her a slay. Up next, we have Tia Coffee. Best look she has ever worn in any season, I think. This is like top to bottom. This is so, so good. I loved her first look. I loved that Nigerian print dress. The dress itself was fantastic, but I don't think that her makeup was all that flattering. Here, her makeup looks really cool. And I think this little applique piece that she has over the brow and that kind of wraps around under the eye, I honestly think it's a better proportion for her face than her makeup a lot of the time. My biggest issue with her makeup quite often is that I think she goes a little too high with it. But this works really well. So I'm a big fan of this style of placement, this amount of real estate that's getting taken up, and where the real effect of the brow hits on her. It's so good. And I didn't even catch it until Michelle pointed out, but the way the hair is styled, it's styled to look like a wave with the ship coming in, and she is the kraken underneath the waves. That is such a cool and simple way to present that idea, and it's so well done. I'm a really big fan of this look. And I think it's also very funny that her and Theresa both did not plan to do one of Henry VIII's wives for Snatch Game this week. And then they went and did essentially the same sort of concept, just very, very different versions of it on the runway this week. I just think that's very funny. It tickled me quite a bit. I'm giving her a slay this week. This is so ridiculously good. And up next, we have our Filipino winner. We have Miss Marina Summers. This look, when you get into just like the base garment itself, the construction of it in terms of like the silhouette, the design, it's nothing we haven't seen. It's basically a bra and panty set with a little bit of like a side bustle pannier moment. I don't think it's anything crazy, anything to write home about. However, the breast cups on this top that are filled with water, it looks so cool in motion. It's really, really effective. I think the color palette looks gorgeous on her, moves in a really cool way on the runway, and I'm also a big fan of these shoes. I will say, I think that maybe she needs a slightly different tone for her fishnets on her tights, because they do read a little orange in this lighting. You can kind of see it in the photo here too. They don't read as her skin tone. So I understand that like that's an easier thing said than done to fix a lot of the times. God knows I certainly struggle trying to find tights that aren't like 20 shades too dark for me. So I get it, but it's off ever so slightly enough that I notice it and it bothers me. That being said, the real star of this look is the hair, the rope, the giant ponytail that's a rope with an anchor attached to it. Genius. Absolutely genius. This is such a cool design, really great performance on the runway, and just as a full concept, I think she is one of the few people this week who really implemented the like literal elements of a ship or something like that into the physical look. We got it with a few other people this week, but I think that this is just really, really great. Just really strong, and I'm a really big fan of it. So who am I kidding? Of course she's getting a slay. This is Marina we're talking about. She's probably always gonna get a slay here. Let's be real. Outside of the dugong look. But other than that, she's probably always gonna get a slay. Just so you're all aware. That is a wrap on this week's Runway, and it's time to determine this week's slay of the day. It's come down to a couple of contenders for me, but I think ever so slightly edging out Marina and Tia for the win on this, I'm gonna give this week's slay of the day to Scarlet Envy. I loved this Titanic look. The dress itself is my favorite thing I think I've ever seen her wear, and I really loved how detailed and how high concept this was. It was immaculately done, and I absolutely adored it. That's gonna be it for our UK versus the world coverage this week. But if you want to stay tuned for even more, these episodes come out every single Wednesday. But since you're here, why don't you take a dip, swim around a little bit, and give that little subscribe button a nice little click, a nice little poke, maybe even ring the notification bell, so that way you will know exactly when each and every new episode of Very Slay and any video game content we put out, along with whatever else I decide to throw up here. Maybe we'll do some makeup tutorials or some like little makeup product review thingies. How do we feel about that? I will say, keep in mind, in just a few weeks, I will be going to Boston for PAX East, and so I will be out of town, so there will be a few episodes we will be recording literally in a hotel room. So get excited for that set of on-location episodes. So I hope you were all just as keen to see that content as I am to record it and get it out there. Until the next time, y'all, be sure to go out there and stay kind, stay queer, and be sure that your day is very slay.